God, it's Friday. Welcome to PM Personality Profile. My guest tonight, one of the tough women making strides as far as climbing the political ladder is concerned. She is the founder and executive director of Mentoring Women Ghana and currently the flag bearer of the Progressive People's Party. Brigette Dzogbenuku, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
How is the campaign going though?
It's going well. There's been a lot of media stuff, but we're starting the travels this week. It's going well. A lot on social media too. I know that lots of the youth now, as they say, you know, from our registration records, you notice that a large number of our voting population are the youth, and the youth are on social media a lot, so we're trying to do a lot in that space too.
You're satisfied with the voter exhibition exercise, the limited registration exercise? You know, the other political party, the NDC for instance, had challenges with it. People complained that even the limited voters registration exercise was just to ensure that some people from the NPP side gets their voters ID card and all of that. What's your own assessment of the whole exercise?
Frankly, I haven't taken the party's view of that, but I think that they announced that they were going to open the register again for the limited registration, which was on the 2nd of October, and they did. What I heard was that it's carried on until the 1st of October, I think it was, and some people said it carried on until the 2nd. So unless, of course, it wasn't open in certain places where the NDC believes their electorates are, they are being left out. I think that it's been opened, and let's like I said, let's go out with positivity. This excessive cynicism, I don't know. I think that if it was opened, everybody ought to have taken advantage of it, and I would assume that everybody did take advantage of it if you were not registered. I know people who were not here due to lockdown and border closures who came back and said to me that they managed to register. So let's hope for the best. If indeed it was being opened so that people will register, I think that most times we like to look at the negative of things and then decide that this is against me. But in knowing that the register, I know people that we got to go back and go and register for us, and it didn't seem like it was skewed towards any particular party. Yes, it was good that they had reopened the register, and some of our people also got to register, and that's the way we look at it.
Great. Let's talk about Brigette. And I'm amazed, even the spelling of your name is different from the normal Brigette I know. Your spelling is what? B-R-I-G-G-I-T-T-double-T-E.
Yes.
That sounds French.
It is French.
Why? Do you have any French relation?
Well, I didn't name myself, so, but my father, I keep saying my father was starstruck. My big sister is Marilyn, as in Marilyn Monroe.
Okay.
And Brigette Bardot.
Okay.
I believe that is where it came from. So, and in those days, in the 60s, I think that most men were starstruck by these women in film and so on. So yes, that is how I got named. But Brigette also means strength.
Okay.
So yes.
Wow.
Brigette means strength, and Dzogbenuku means resilience.
Oh,
so
my goodness.
I'm a strong woman.
You are a strong woman. And of course, you're a barracks girl.
I'm a barracks girl.
That makes the situation worse.
You see? I think my destiny was just to come out and be a strong woman in spite of the odds. Look, I mean, I say it as a joke that I'm a strong woman, but I also have my fears and my apprehensions.
Yes.
And it's okay to recognize that I have those. The only difference is probably I dare them. I dare my fear. And I think that everybody, including the women in this country, you are strong. You possess it. Dare that fear. Walk into it. Don't just say, oh, as for me, I'm afraid. It's good, but walk into the fear.
Yeah.
Don't let your fear defeat you.
Great. So barracks, and I believe being in the barracks also contributed to the toughness. So your father was a soldier.
Yes, I lived in the barracks until I was about age 20 when my father, 19 or 20 when my father retired.
Okay.
So, yes, that, and I come after 3 boys. So my sister is 7 years older than me. I come after the 3 boys, and I'm the last. I played with them. I jumped with them. I ran with them. But I think so. Military life toughens you up. First of all, military life gives you discipline.
Yeah.
It teaches you to be. Apart from the fact that your father is disciplining you at home, you are being disciplined by the barracks. There are things you won't do. There are inspections of your home, and they make sure that your lawn, your hedges are cut right, and your homes. There's inspection on Mondays, for example. It puts you in a certain, and if you are walking down the street and misbehaving, any soldier can discipline you.
Wow.
So yes, that toughness comes from there. You obviously grow up amongst the soldiers, so you're not afraid of them, and it adds up. But I think it's past the family life, growing up with the boys. The neighbors have boys, you all run around and play together. They are all children of soldiers. And then, of course, there's also the military discipline.
Great. So tell me about your growing up among 3 strong guys. You were 2 girls with 3 boys.
3 boys.
You're
yes.
the oldest.
I'm the
girl,
youngest.
The youngest
Yes,
girl,
yes.
the last born.
I'm the last born.
Oh
yes.
wow! So you have 3 guys, 2 girls, and you had to. Sometimes they wouldn't even try to bully you, but you stood your
Good
ground.
thing we didn't have bullying in our home very much.
Okay.
Yes, there was that thing of I'm the oldest. I'm older than you, and therefore, but. No, there wasn't bullying.
Maybe the military life was also part of it.
Maybe the most bullying that would be keep quiet, you talk too much.
Did you talk too much while
I
you were
think I
young?
did, but it was a good thing.
So I'm sure in class they will give you DP.
I was a class prefect a lot of the time.
So you had your way.
So I was giving the other people DP. Yes.
Wow. How was growing up like in the barracks?
It was beautiful. I'm so glad. This is a good question, because barracks life was a good life, which I would wish that the rest of Ghana had. Recently I took a young lady, Amina, who used to work with me. I had to go and do a presentation to the women in the armed forces during their 60th anniversary. And I took one of my assistants, Amina, with me. And when we finished, it was in Burma camp. When we finished, I drove her around Burma camp and showed her the neighborhoods, Juba Villas, Juba Ridge, Burma Villas, and all the neighborhoods where we lived or where we walked through. And I showed her the schools, showed her the bank, showed her the shops, and then the marketplace and all that. And as we drove out, she was quiet for a long time. She said to me, this would be a very good place to bring up children.
Wow.
And to think that after, 50 years, that actually resounded with me. And I thought, wow, that is such a profound statement, because those of us who grew up there probably took it for granted.
Yeah.
The barracks life had everything. In those days, the 70s and the 80s, we had our schools there, so we walked to school. A bunch of us. I was telling someone recently how we would walk to school, and on the way back, we'd be teasing each other and laughing at each other. And as we walked through the neighborhoods, people dropped off to their homes until, the end. We lived in Labadi Villas, for example, at the time. And by the time you get to Labadi Villas to your home, there's only 2 or 3 of you left, and you are the last to get to your home, because we were at the end of it. So it was good. We actually have a WhatsApp group. The Labadi Villas kids have a WhatsApp group where we catch up. And even my primary school, Kotoka Primary School, has a WhatsApp group now. We catch up, we help each other out. We lost a teacher recently. We contributed to this, I grew up, I went to 4 different primary schools.
Why?
Because of the barracks life and the army life.
Okay.
So I started primary school. I started nursery school in Kamina Barracks, Tamale.
Okay.
So I went to Kamina Barracks for nursery.
Okay, so your father was being transferred
Yes.
to other places.
It turns out that when I was born in the UK. My father was the military attaché at the time to the embassy there. So that's how come I was born. So I was born Ghanaian. No, I'm not British, I'm Ghanaian. Then after 3 years, we moved to Takoradi. I mean, at age 3, there's very little I can remember, just, you know. And then we moved to Tamale. And even in Tamale, we moved house 2 or 3 times.
Oh, wow.
But I did nursery school there, which I loved. I loved the food.
Which one do you remember?
I remember the beans and gari very well.
Okay.
Yes. I remember it so clearly. It had a unique taste. I think it was burnt, but it tasted good all the time.
So the burning gave it a certain flavor.
Yes. And then I moved from there, and then we came to Burma Camp. When we came to Burma Camp, I was in Forces Primary School. Forces Primary School is at the end of Burma Camp. It's Recce Regiment, Arakan Barracks, they call that area. And I had to walk home. And even though it would close at 1:30, it used to take me hours to get home.
Why?
I don't know. Well, I think
took your time?
I took my time and stopped by the roadside and played, or I don't know. But it used to say, so my father one day got home and said, "Are you now coming home?" He said, "No, this can't continue." So he moved me closer to
the school.
to home.
Oh, okay.
He moved me from there closer to, we lived in Juba Ridge at the time. So they put me in what they called Burma Camp Primary, but we all called it Complex. And then I was there for a term or 2, I think 2 terms. That was class 1. So I did class 1 in 2 schools. Then we moved to Takoradi. So he was moved to Takoradi to be the commanding officer of the 2nd Battalion of Infantry. And then we went to Services Primary. That was nice. I think my best life in the army was Takoradi.
Okay.
My best, it was just the community, the barrack, the Mayan barracks in which we lived. We all went to school together in a bus and came back together. And after homework would play and, you know, all that. It was just fun. We had a little girls club where we used to dance on Sundays.
You love dancing?
I love dancing. So we used to do cultural dances. It was just a club we formed by ourselves, interestingly. And I remember my friends like Sophia and Doris and Flonica, and so the Kwamo Boatins and the Kowes and the Sowatis, and you know,
were your mates?
All friends who lived in the same neighborhood.
Okay.
And then we left there in '79 after the coup, and then came back to Burma Camp. And when we came back to Burma Camp, I went to Kotoka Primary. So in Services Primary, I was there from class 2 to class 5.
Okay.
And another interest, we also have a WhatsApp group right now, you know, all years, and we communicate there. And then from there, I went to, by the way, all these were public schools, and nothing private about them. And then from there, I came back to Kotoka Primary School.
So those times they called them Saito schools?
They were not quite Saito, but they were not, we did very well. I passed and went to Wesley Girls at par with everybody else who went.
Wow.
So they were good schools, but they were not international or preparatory schools. They were government schools. They were Ghana Army schools. From there, I did class 2 to class 5. And then I came back to Kotoka Primary School. Another time that I really enjoyed the Army school. I did class 6 there. After that, I went to Wesley Girls High School.
So at which school did you do your BEC or Common Entrance?
Common Entrance. We didn't write BEC in those days.
Yes, pardon me.
And you see, we still turned out well. So maybe BEC must be looked at. We didn't write BEC in those days. We wrote Common Entrance. So I wrote Common Entrance at Kotoka Primary School.
Okay.
Yes, in 1981. May, June 1981. And then I went to Wesley Girls in 1981.
Must be fun at Wesley Girls.
Oh, of course. I mean, Wesley Girls, I can never stop talking about it.
Okay.
The moral training in Wesley Girls, my headmistress recently wrote a book. And the interesting thing about her book, Mrs. Achampong, was that she's talking about things that happened in 1958. And you would think they happened in 1984 when I was there.
When you were there.
Because we've maintained the standards. And it's not standards only just to study and pass exams. It's standards of mutual respect, of moral training, of pastoral care, of values.
How did you feel on Friday when your girls were sent out?
I was
of the
really
National
crestfallen.
I
was really crestfallen. I wondered what happened. But worst of all was the trolling online, which I found really disappointing. These are young girls, impressionable ages. I mean, one of them was saying somebody should have gone to contest for Diasa. You don't do that. You know, you see, and that tells you that the Ghanaian feels so low, they must bring other people down. In a very nasty way.
Which is really bad.
Yes, and we must learn to prop ourselves up, find our own self-esteem, and it doesn't matter if you make people feel good. Yes, on a Friday, I was disappointed that they didn't make it. I didn't quite follow it. But when I heard it and I saw some of the trolls and the things people said about them online,
discouraged.
It's like, why do you dislike us so much? Why? What have we done to be disliked? So only because we went to Wesley Girls.
Were you also a prefect there?
I was. I'm a sportswoman, so I was a sports prefect.
Oh wow!
And I was also an assistant house prefect. Assistant house prefect.
Then you had everything.
And
going
at some point, I was ringing the bell, and in Wesley Girls, it's bells that control the school.
Okay.
Not your time, not my time. It's the bell. When the bell goes, you move.
Okay.
So I was controlling, including the teachers.
So you were a tough girl, even at Wegehe.
You know, I didn't think about it like that until after, when I was given a prize for the most responsible. What is that? I mean,
because you were always.
To think of it, I was the one I was controlling the school with the bell, you know.
And from Wegehe to University of Ghana.
To University of Ghana.
And whilst you were in school, were you a bad girl?
No, I didn't have it in me. I wasn't brought up that way. I don't know what you mean by bad girl.
At least the military life.
Yes, but I got punished a few times. I remember the first time I got punished. I wasn't upset at the punishment. I was upset at the fact that I had been punished. You know, that I had been found to do something wrong to be punished.
Okay.
And I wept and wept and wept.
But what called for that punishment?
I don't remember, but I remember the person who punished me, and I won't say her name here. I don't remember what I did. She probably said I didn't do my housework well or something like that. And it was a good lesson. I never went wrong on my housework ever again.
So from Wegehe to University of Ghana, which year was that?
I went to University of Ghana in 1989.
Okay.
I believe, yes.
And
89.
Was university life different from, did you see things that really made you feel like, okay, we're just joking at Wegehe. This is the real world?
No. Wegehe was restricted. We didn't go out much. The guys came to visit, and there was a time within which they would visit. University of Ghana, there was freedom.
And you love dancing. So
I love dancing.
Were there times that you had to sneak and go out whilst you were whilst you were in secondary school?
I wouldn't dream of it. Can you imagine if I was caught? I would be expelled.
Okay.
And no, Wesley Girls, not under Mrs. Champong's watch. You're going sneaking out to go and dance where? Besides, we were taught to entertain ourselves.
Okay.
So every term we had events. We could have our own homos nights, Form 2's night, Form 3's night, dancing competition, drama nights and things like that. We were taught to entertain. And then of course we had records nights. Our DJ was called Alapo. I hear Alapo is now a science lecturer. He's a doctorate. He has a doctorate in one of the sciences somewhere in Canada. But he was a DJ at the time.
I see.
And he would play all the latest music and we would dance and dance and dance.
So there was no need,
there was no need for us. No.
Wow. Okay. So at the University of Ghana, you had much freedom.
Yes.
So you utilized it.
I did, yes, a lot. There was always a jam here or a jam there. And I became known as loving the jams a lot. In fact, I was told one day that they said, for Brigette, if they rub two milk tins together and said there's a jam, she'll be there. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but
well,
I love to dance and I love my music.
So have fun. I love to dance also, but generally, how was university life?
It was good. Well, excuse me. University was, the freedom was good. You had, at the time, there were 2 or 3 of us in a room. I know now there are 6 or 8, but we're only 2 or 3. First year there were 3 of us. Second year there were 2 of us, and my roommates and I have remained friends until now. A Gifty, the freedom was good, but you had to keep a certain discipline to go for lectures. And in our days we didn't have semester system. We had the year. So we had something called the first university exams, and that used to put a lot of fear in people. Because if you are not writing your first university, if you are not studying continuously, the first university exams would get you, and people used to panic. And some people even used to lose their minds over the first university exams. So we had to study hard, and I remember my first university exams, I was writing English. I studied, first year I did English, French and Swahili.
Okay.
And English was okay. French wasn't bad. No, Swahili was good. I loved it. French was okay. English was difficult.
Yeah.
The fact that you spoke English didn't mean you knew English, English drama, English literature, and then even English language by itself. And that was where I had I thought I was challenged by it, but I think I was pushing myself to do better than I do. So I actually did very well in English in first year, but I didn't like it.
Okay.
So, or should I say I didn't like it? That was probably the thing where you think you're there to pass exams, and I should have been there to enjoy English for what it was worth.
I've heard a lot of people say that. I had the same problem myself. I mean, when the English lecturer walks in, you get angry because she's going to mark your dots, everything you do, she'll say.
I think with English at university level, it was the way they dissected the language and made the history of English.
And if it was a woman who was your lecturer?
They were okay. There wasn't them as much as what you had to study. And you see, when you feel you know something, studying it is a challenge.
Yeah.
When you don't know, you're learning something new. But when you know it and now it's starting to make you dissect it and understand it one way or other. Some of the lecturers were okay. Professor Nidoho, for example, I loved his poetry class. I loved poetry. So, yes, I did well in English, but I dropped it, sadly. And when I think back, I keep saying maybe I should go back and study English. And then I did French and Swahili. So lectures were okay. I had a lecturer in Swahili who was the brother of the state's prosecutor, the special prosecutor, called Mr. Amidu. Of course, it was his brother. And he was just as stern. He was very stern. He, broke no nonsense. And he was, he just wanted the best for us. So yes, I enjoyed my lectures. I was a sportswoman there as well. So at some point I was the female basketball captain. The captain of the female basketball team.
Okay.
And I remember we had a coach who was brought from outside, Bra Matthias, may his soul rest in peace. And after he trained us for a while, he went and brought a team of very small girls from a place called Holy Family. And they came and disgraced us in front of the university boys, namely the Commonwealth boys and the Saba Hall boys. They disgraced us so much that the boys started cheering them against us. And they were speaking French. So I still have friends who see me and all they say is, ici. As in here, because that's what the girls were saying to beat us.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, wow.
But it was fun. University of Ghana was fun.
Were you in the Volta Hall?
I was in Volta Hall.
Okay,
proudly,
famous Volta Hall.
Proudly Volta Hall.
How was it like?
It was fantastic. I loved it. Initially, I was in L Block. And L Block was facing the road from the School of Admin. And I remember my father used to come and visit, one of the few people that my father would come and visit. And he would come and park downstairs and then motion to someone upstairs, is Brigette there? And then they would call me. And then second year, I moved to K Block.
Okay.
And finally, of course, I did 4 years because I did a year out in Tanzania because of Swahili.
Okay.
So I went to Tanzania for 1 year. That was also fantastic. That was what made Tanzania my second home. I made friends who still remain friends up until today.
Okay.
Some of them, I got them, they met their husband through me. Because I went back to work in Tanzania.
Yes.
There was a Ghanaian gentleman
with
there.
With Ashanti Gold Fields.
There was a Ghanaian gentleman there, Joe, who met my friend Nina through me. My friend who was in University of Dar es Salaam with me.
Okay.
So Joe and Nina met through me and they got married. And that's my one deed done on earth. That when I go to heaven, it will be counted against my name.
Brigette Dzogbenuku is my guest on PM Personality Profile. We're having fun. When I return from this break, we'll be finding out from Brigette her newfound love, politics. Did she ever know she was going to be in politics at some point in time? At what time did she develop that love for politics? All of that when we return from this break. Welcome back to PM Personality Profile. Brigette Dzogbenuku, she's the flag bearer of the Progressive People's Party. She's my guest tonight. Very interesting insights with Brigette. Brigette, so let's talk about your career. General manager, first of Aviation Social Center. At some point, Ashanti Gold Fields, and you talked about it, Tanzania, Dar es Salaam. And then you worked with Johnson.
I worked my first job, well, national service. You know, in the past, we did 2 years of national service. So I did national service as a teacher, French teacher.
Yeah.
Teaching in Teshi. The kids spoke French and very little English. The kids spoke Gan. They spoke Gan. And not much English. I spoke French and English and very little Gan.
Okay.
So it was a real challenging but interesting experience. But I loved it. I loved teaching. Then after university, that was before university. So after university, I worked for ELF, a French company. ELF used to be an oil marketing company here, French oil marketing company here. So I worked for them for 1 year, and then I got an offer to work with SC Johnson Wax. We used to call it as well, SC Johnson. So I worked there as a brand manager. And if anything, you see, destiny is a very interesting thing, because that is where I got the experience of managing a brand.
Okay.
Right now, you didn't mention in the intro, but I sell Jomi.
Yes,
I'm a Jomi seller, and that is one thing I'm very proud of. So I'm a Jomi seller, and that is what got me into my branding. After working at SC, a lot of the experience there has been brought to bear on my Jomi.
Okay.
Branding it, you know, value added, and selling and marketing it. So I worked for SC Johnson, and at the time, Ladina Islander was my managing director there. I worked there for a couple of years, 2 years, and I left. And precocious me, young and, you know, daring, I set up an events company. I must say that it was probably one of the first independent events companies. Most times, events at the time were organized by advertising companies. So you see how the industry has actually evolved.
Yeah.
So most times it was events were organized by advertising companies, but I saw a niche then. I thought, just do events. So I would do conferences, I would do exhibitions, I would do cocktails, parties, some private parties, some weddings, not many weddings at the time, but a lot of corporate events and a few private events. And then as we were growing with that business, Dumso struck us.
Okay.
That was my first recollection of Dumso, where all day lights would be off, people would be running on generators, and therefore people started putting their resources into generators and things like that rather than events, because of course it was a cost.
Yeah.
And business was slow, and I think I panicked. It was scary, but at that same time I got this offer to go and work with Ashanti Goldfields in Tanzania, and I loved the fact that I could go back to Tanzania, not as a student this time, but with a salary.
Okay.
So I took it and I went, and I loved being in Tanzania for the 15, 16 months that I was there. It was amazing. It made me polish up on my Swahili. It made me learn the Tanzanian culture, or the various cultures of Tanzania. I appreciated the tourism of Tanzania and their trade. They had just found gold and they were mining on large scale, you know. So it was development again, starting something new again. And you see how a country develops. They had been a socialist country for a long time, coming out of socialism, and they've grown rapidly. And it was just beautiful being there. I love dancing. They love dancing. They love music. So it worked for me. It worked for
you.
Yes. And then when I came back from there, I went back to working. I took up something else that fell right in line with my life. Sports.
Yeah.
And events. I love mingling with people, and you know. And then I love my sports.
Yeah.
What better place than Aviation Social Center? They had just built, they had just put the equipment in there, and they were looking for a general manager. I went to the gym to exercise, and Mr. T, who was an African American at the time, said, look, we are looking for a general manager. Don't you want to do this? And I speak about destiny again, because you see, Mr. T, who was running or semi-running that place at the time, had a gym in Ringway Estates way back, and I was a member of that gym. And I lived with an African American friend of mine, Leslie, who had to put together a business plan for a gym.
Okay.
And I read through it. She was writing a business plan for Mr. T and his wife at the time to upgrade their gym in Ringway Estates. And for some reason, I was sitting in the couch one day and I picked it up and read it and put it aside. And you see, these things come to you. You don't think about it.
Yes.
But when I went to Aviation Social Center, all that I had read in that one evening or 2 evenings, all just came back. And it is with that I started Aviation Social Center and ran it for 12 years.
Wow.
Put it all in business units, had a staff of about 50 people, had all kinds of events, end of year events, private events, corporate events, you know. And I still have, still a bit of my heart left in Aviation Social Center.
Probably because of your love for sports.
My love for sports and my love for people and events, and I like to see happy people. You know, people must be happy.
Whilst in school, were you in politics?
No. I remember once we did a mood thing, political thing. I wonder what that was for. And I find it funny when I think back on it, because whatever it was, I was embroiled in it, and at some point I was even arrested. And it started and culminated into something over the weekend. And you'll find it interesting that my good friend Nana Oye was on the other side, and I was on this side, and they arrested me.
So at what point did you discover the political animal in you?
I think we live with politics. Huh? Politics affects all of us. It's just that some of us decide not to talk, or for fear we keep quiet, especially for fear that we might be insulted, or you know. But I probably started getting political in 2014 or around 2013 or 2014. I need to go back to my Facebook reminders, memories to see. But when Facebook gives me memories, I see that I can write something. I write. I used to. So my politics started on social media. I would write something I was very much against. But the truth of it is, I probably started or got aware of things going right around 2008. In 2008, I was selected, and I was at Aviation Social Center at the time. I was selected with Juliet Asante, the lady in film and all that. Yeah. And we went for a program in the US. We were selected by the States Department, the embassy. And we went on this program called the Fortune States Department Mentoring Women's Partnership. It's a mentoring program that they take women from around the world. And because of Fortune, they bring women from the Fortune 500 countries and they pair them with you, and they become your mentors. So although I went in the area of sports to be mentored by the president of the WNBA, Donna Orenda, she was my mentor, and she mentored me in sports. But the interesting thing about that mentoring was she made me see how sports, basketball in particular, could be used in the development of women.
Yeah.
And of course, she also made me understand women's leadership. The whole program makes you understand women's leadership. So I went for this. I was mentored by Donna Orenda only in basketball, but we got to meet Nancy Pelosi, for example. We got to meet these women in education. We got to meet the women in civil society. We got to meet women in media. So all this started drawing my attention to how things ought to be done. And maybe I became a bit more critical of how we do things here. So probably from 2008, I started, writing things on Facebook and on social media. 2014 was when I got a lot more vocal, and I actually joined the Occupy Flagstaff House demonstration. And I think what happened was, as usual, I went as a demonstrator. We gathered at Ifwa Sutherland Park. We would go this way and the police would stop us. We'd go the other way, the police would stop us. And at some point, when I got to Ifwa Sutherland Park, Joy FM was there. And because I'd been so vocal on social media, for some reason, when I got there, all I heard was, "Oh, Brigette is here, Brigette is here. Brigette, what do you have to say?" And the mic was in my face. So I ranted and raved. There were a few things I picked on and said, "We've had enough. Things can't be going this way." There was no power, there was no fuel, there was no water, and yet we were flying 3.5 billion cedis to football players, cash, all that. So we went on and on. I went on, and I was captured. And so I, by default, became an activist of some sort. And then when we managed to march to the Flagstaff House, again, I think some minister said something that was very offensive to me. So I ranted and raved there too, and I was captured. So I think that was when I became noticed as a political person. I still hadn't seen myself as such. I was just talking,
Okay.
Politics is indeed part of our lives. You talk it, and if you talk about life, you'll talk about politics. Then in 2016, the PPP then approached me. I think they had seen me in all this, and I frankly did not belong to any political party. They had seen me, and they asked me if I was interested. They wanted me to. It took me a little while to. But this is not my plan to put myself out there. But I thought about it. You've been putting yourself out there already, and if you want to be heard, you need to. This is an opportunity. It is not to. Most times when we are asked to do these things, we look at it with fear. But if you look at it with love and look at it and say, I need to be here. I need to get myself out there. Other people need to hear me. And other people need to come along with me. then you take it up. It's an opportunity.
There been a time that you went inside your room and you were like, oh my goodness, why did I put this on me? Why did I decide to go into politics? Somebody said something that really hurts bad.
It is not what someone said that made me go like that. It's stressful, especially after the announcements. The media is on you. Everybody is calling you. They want to talk to you. The people put you, there are some people who are out to attack you and make you look bad in the media. And maybe they succeed, but I rise again. I rise again, and yes, and some days like that, I will go to my room and say, oh, what have I let myself into? I've been to my headmistress, she's my mentor, and my mother, from Wesley Girls, Mrs. Champo. And I said to her, what have I gone and put myself into? Because yes, it's stressful, but it's a 3-4 month exercise. It will end, it will pass. One way or other, you either become president or not. And it is growth.
Do you seek to do differently?
What do you mean?
I mean, as a flag bearer of a political party.
Well, I keep saying to my party people that let's do things with compassion. Let's recognize that, and that's what I just said. Let's recognize that we are all on a path of growth. We tend to hold our political leaders as, or put them on a pedestal, or hold them as a standard. They also have their weaknesses. They also have their vulnerabilities. So I would want people to understand that you are ultimately responsible for your life and your living, not your political leaders. And take a look at that. And that is what I would want Ghanaians to understand. We are ultimately responsible, each one of us, for our lives. But in doing so, also have compassion on your fellow Ghanaian. We are not compassionate. We judge people harshly, and let's not judge people harshly. Let's understand where each of us is coming from and what little we have to everybody has a little bit of good in them. And when you ask that question, I'll tell you what. I am thinking of an inclusive government. What I'll do differently is the inclusiveness. The fact that it's a PPP-led government does not mean that there's no NDC or there's no. In fact, there isn't. We are all Ghanaians. Let's forget about this divisive partisan politics and bring everybody together, because there are brilliant people on both sides. There are brilliant people and good people who want the good of the country and not for just themselves. There are a few who want just their own good and being greedy and selfish. But there are also people who want the right thing done. And they are in both these parties. And what has happened is they belong to these two parties because they think that they are the two, they are the only two. I chose to do it differently and go with the PPP. I've heard people say to me that, she's in the wrong party. I say those are the wrong parties for me.
Okay.
And until we have an inclusive government where projects are not abandoned, where it doesn't matter that he's of this party or of that party, he is the brain and he's the round peg that should be put in that round hole to do the work. That is what I'll do differently.
In the last elections, the PPP didn't do quite well. And you hear from these two major political parties, NDC and PPP, and they say you're a joke. How do you intend to revive the PPP?
The PPP is alive. The two parties are actually scared of us.
Okay.
We came third. Ghanaians today are saying we are tired of the NDC and the NPP. I'm sure you've heard it. So it wasn't a joke. If you recall, in 2016, look, I'll start from 2012. In 2012, a new party, so PPP was a new party in 2012. It had 64,000 votes. That's not bad. It still came third of all the other existing minor parties. In 2016, we doubled that, in spite of the fact that we were disqualified, So if we were disqualified in 2016, and yet we came back on the ballot paper almost at the end of October, and still managed, so we only had really 1 month or a little less of active campaigning, because everybody thought we were off the ballot paper, and we were still able to double our votes. Were we a joke? We were not a joke.
Yeah.
In fact, it was a win for us because we doubled our votes from 2012. And that is what we want. We want people to recognize that there is an alternative party. There's a third party. Or if you like, throw all of them in. Because what is happening is the two parties are now taking the Ghanaians for a ride.
Brigette Dzogbenuku is my guest tonight. She says she's driven by the strong will of women to succeed, no matter the odds. When I return from this break, we'll find out how. And her love for sports. She's so good, and she plays tennis so well so that she can match Serena Williams. Trust me. When we return from that break, we'll go into all of that. Stay with me. Welcome back to PM Personality Profile. Brigette Dzogbenuku is my guest tonight. Brigette, so you say you love to see women grow, but this is a country where we're still struggling, fighting for women to get up there. In Parliament, for instance, we have just 36 females out of the 275 members of Parliament. That's about 13% representation. What has been the obstacle all these years?
Well, the Affirmative Action Bill has still not been passed. But you see, I would say that there are women in there. So the few that we have in there must push for the passing of the Affirmative Action Bill. But generally, I mean, I have been insulted by people just for the mere fact that I think I'm a woman and I want to run for president. I think that general respect for our women is still lacking in many ways, especially for the men. They just don't seem to think that a woman is good enough for leadership. But our mothers in our homes are leaders. They know how to manage the economy of the home. They know how to take care of them. There are women on the streets who are leaders. I mean, a woman who goes on the streets to sell roasted plantain is not selling it because she wants to buy a car. She's selling it because her children must be fed, or her children must go to the hospital, or must go to school. And this is feeding directly into the economy of Ghana. So we know that a lot of women these days are being, we have a lot of single mothers, women who have children and the men are nowhere to be found. And yet they survive, they make it, they find a way. And therefore it takes a certain strong will for women to afford their lives. And therefore, we can use that. We women can use that. We are strong. We should believe it. Let's not believe in the weaker sex rhetoric. And stand up. There's a saying that if you're not at the table, you are on the table. And I hear and they say anything on the table is either used or eaten. So let's get ourselves at the table, no matter what, at the assembly level, at the and I hope that in our time, I hope that when we are in power, the plan is that we will actually want for us all to vote for our DCs and MMDCs, so that a lot more women can also step up into the leadership positions. But I think that at every level a woman finds herself, you must be excellent.
Have you had some challenges with the men trying to bully you?
They do it even without realizing it. You know that. They don't do it because I'm a man and it's okay. But when you call their attention to it, they step back. Yes. It's our socialization, and it's going to take time for us to change. But you see, I'll tell you, the less we make use of our resource as women, the more we lose out, because women in leadership makes economic sense and it makes developmental sense.
What would you describe as your happy moments?
Wow, my happy moments. I love church. Okay. I've always loved church as a child, and I go to Accra Red Church. I love my Methodist hymns.
Okay.
I love my parties too.
You have a favorite?
Yes. Courage, brother, do not stumble.
Okay.
Though thy path be dark as night, there's a star to guide the humble. Trust in God and do the right.
Okay.
Some will hate thee, some will love thee, some will flatter, some will slight. Cease from man and look above thee. Trust in God and do the right.
So days as a beauty queen.
Oh my
must have
goodness!
been
I was hoping you would have
refreshing.
forgotten it.
How was the feeling like? I mean, now becoming an ambassador in your community development and all that. How
In those days, it wasn't like that. Remember, I was Miss Ghana 30 years ago.
That was 19.
3rd November will be 30 years ago.
That's 19 what?
I was Miss Ghana 1991. The contest was held on 3rd November 1990.
Okay.
So just a few days to 30 years.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Yes.
And
the current Miss Ghana was not born, and not the one before, not the one before.
What do you make of the transformation? Especially recently, we've heard girls who say they are harassed and all that during the competition. How does all of this come across you?
In our
Was it
time,
like that
it wasn't
during
like
your time?
that. We also needed to find sponsorship. But who knows? Maybe the men were more noble in those days. So the people I went to for sponsorship, nobody asked me any favors. And I wasn't made to give any favors. And maybe I wasn't looking for much. I think it's the times we are in. Because we heard that about the University of Ghana too. And I run mentoring programs. I've been running mentoring programs since 2009. It comes up, sex for grades, it comes up. So it's become a thing that is going on now. It's the times we are in, and it's disappointing. But you see, who is speaking out against it? I think that after that documentary, a lot of people are speaking out against it. Excuse me. I think that the Miss Ghana need to clean out that image very quickly. And I don't know how they're going to do it, but it needs to be cleaned out so that the contest can go back to those days where it was thought of as clean and decent.
We'll look forward to seeing those changes because it's really, really troubling when you hear all those stories about girls being harassed and all of that. But you talked about loving your church as much as loving your parties. Do you have a favorite song? Do you love music?
I love music. I love music in all forms. I listen to all kinds of music. You should see my playlist. It's everything. I mean, jazz and down to the other day I was listening to Simi.
Okay.
But I also like Kofi Kinata. I love Kofi Kinata.
Oh
Kofi Kinata, if you're watching.
Yeah. Which of his songs is your favorite?
But it's not so much one particular song
about him
as the way he puts the words together.
And
the
lyrics.
Yes, the lyrics. And not only, it's the way he pieces the lyrics together. He tends to bring in scripture in his songs. And he also is very natural. Very natural. So I actually discovered Kofi Kinata one day in my car when they were playing Crusade. That was the first of his songs I heard. And then of course Sweetie Pie and Things Fall Apart. And I love him.
Okay.
Friday jam all night, Saturday night in the club.
Yeah, more than say men shot
the cap in him.
And the shape and all the Bible in the bed.
Now it's up in the bay.
You see?
Well, the club walk away.
I must be one of those girls. Girls don't fit up walk away. Club more bay. I don't do clubs anymore though.
But it's actually exercising. I mean, you go to the club, you dance your heart out.
I've done clubs.
And then you come home and you are so tired. It's exercise.
You are young, so you can still afford to do that. I did it in my 20s.
You know, he's a great guy. But you love sports as well.
Yes.
And you do tennis.
I play tennis.
You say you do basketball.
Oh,
as
I don't
well?
play basketball anymore. My
Anymore.
niece, no. These knees are more than 50 years old.
Oh my goodness. But you don't even look it. You don't
Thank
look
you.
it.
Thank
You
God.
don't look it. You don't look it. You're really, really blessed.
Thank you.
And so you do tennis, you do basketball.
I used to play basketball.
used to
I used
do-
to be a sprinter.
Okay.
For a long time, I held the 100-meter record in Wesley Girls High School.
Oh, wow.
Yes, I did.
Oh, wow.
I think it was broken, I don't know, some years back. And so when I was in school, when I was sprinting, I did 100 meters, 200 meters, 100 meters relay, and high jump.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
I mean,
So-
those are
so-
well behind me right now.
And it's really refreshing hearing of that. So she says those knees are more than 50 years, but we'll be going to the tennis court very soon and she'll show us something small. Maybe I would also get to learn some tennis.
You must. You should join Accra Lawn Tennis Club. That's okay. You asked me what I do to be happy.
Yes.
That's one of my favorite places. Accra Lawn Tennis Club is just a microcosm of Ghanaian society. We have the old ones, we have people in their 70s, we have the young ones, we have a mixture, and they love to have fun. We have fun around tennis.
Okay.
Last Saturday, we had a Homowo carnival. So the Gans did a Homowo party, they played a tournament, and then we had a Homowo party after that.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
I love it. That's my
So watch
favorite
out,
place.
Brigette Dzogbenuku. She's been my guest tonight. Thank you so much
Thank you.
for letting us into your life. It's been really, really wonderful
Thank you.
talking to you. We'll be going to the tennis court shortly. She'll be showing us something small. Maybe we'll do something together. But Millie K Garment, they did my beautiful clothes. Call them on 0243-224-809.
You won't fight 4-time devil. You the joke. You tell you jam so my band, I yellow sumia.
Racket back.
Jam so my band.
Well done.
Hey! Thank you so much for talking to us.
You're welcome.
I really, really enjoyed talking to you. Viewers, I tried my best. I'll grow up. Thanks so much for watching. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Enjoy the rest of our programs.